Hey guys, welcome to my channel Lot to Learn. So today I'm going to show you how to build a Maven Java application using declarative pipeline in Jenkins. So in the previous video I have shown you how to create a Maven job using the Jenkins UI and then execute that and deploy the snapshot as well as the release artifacts to the Nexus repository. Now in this tutorial I'm going to show you the same thing, but here I'm going to write a Jenkins file. So there I will write a declarative pipeline, and that I will use that for a Jenkins pipeline plugin. So let's see how it is done. Okay, so Jenkins file is always used whenever you are going to use a declarative Jenkins pipeline. So this is always a good option, because if you want to version your pipeline, you can do using your Jenkins file. And moreover, if you're writing a Jenkins file to implement your pipeline, every time and whenever you want to implement in any other environment or maybe in any other Jenkins server, you can just simply deploy get the file and upload it to your source code management tool, and that's all. Your pipeline can be configured without any further modifications required. So this is always a good option, and most of the enterprises and the companies, they go with this. So as you can see here, this is my Jenkins file. Okay, so in this Jenkins file I'm just going to explain what are the things I have used here. Okay, so after that I will show you how to implement this Jenkins file and how you can create your pipeline in Jenkins to build the application. So the first thing is that obviously you have to start with pipeline. So that's the syntax of Jenkins file. So you can get these syntaxes from jenkins.io website. So that's the documentation for Jenkins. So to start with, we have to write pipeline, and then we have to mention the agent. So if you mention agent, and after agent if you mention any, so it will take up any free agent and then it will execute the job. But in this case I have mentioned a label, so it will find for the node which has a label master, and that will be chosen for executing the job. Okay, so after that we have what I have used here, it's parameters. So this is how you write a parameter. I mean, why I am using the parameter I will show you in my next step when I'm going to build a job. That time I will show you why I have used parameters. So just to understand the Jenkins file and how to use parameters, this is how you can do it. So parameters, and then the type of parameter which I have chosen here, that is choice. So that will be basically a drop down list. Apart from choice, there are many other parameters options are there, like for example a text box, or maybe a radio button. So there are various parameter choices are there. So here I have just I'm just going with choice here, and I've given the name of the choice or the parameter as a build type. So it will basically ask what kind of build you are going to execute. So whether that's snapshot or release. So either you can use /n between each of the option, or even you can put that in a list. So you can basically put it like this, and after that just close these brackets, and yeah, that's all. So like this also you can do it, but I'm just going to keep it as it is. Let's make it, yeah, okay. So I'm just going to delete the brackets. Fine. So this is the place where you mention your choices, and then the description. Like basically you have to mention what is this parameter is for to the user, or maybe to the DevOps engineer. So that's the description is for. So next, this is the option. For now we can ignore this. So this is some extra option to the Jenkins pipeline. So here I'm just mentioning disable concurrent build. So I am just going to disable any builds which will be running concurrently with this particular pipeline. Now this part is very important. So this is tools. So here I am mentioning what are the tools required for this pipeline to work. So here I am going to use Maven and Java. Now this name Java 8 and Maven 3, it came from the configuration which I have already done in the Jenkins, and this configuration I will also show you, okay, after I describe this Jenkins file, right? So I'm just mentioning the JDK, and JDK will be using this particular configuration from the Jenkins, and for the Maven it will use a Maven-3. Right, so you can mention your tools here as you can see in this Jenkins file. Now the next is environment. So if you want to set any environmental values, you can set it from here. So I'm just simply mentioning my environmental values, like, you know, Nexus FQDN, so the Nexus server URL, or the Nexus port, then artifact version. Though I'm not going to use the artifact version like this, but just for your sake I have mentioned it like this. And then the Java home and the Maven home I have. So I have already installed Java and Maven in my Jenkins server, so that is already set up. And then the Nexus credential, so this credential is also set up in the Jenkins server, which I will show you. Okay, so the Nexus credentials will be used, the credentials function in the Jenkins, and then it will get this a particular ID, and it will get the username and password which will be stored in this particular variable. And then after this I have started the stages. So this is very important. So here under stages there will be multiple stage, okay, and as you can see here, the first stage is the clean and verify. So here in this stage I am going to use multiple steps, but for in this Jenkins file I have used only single steps, and the script which I have mentioned inside the script, that is using the with credentials. So now with credentials is actually coming from one particular plugin. So that plugin is basically Maven pipeline plugin or declarative pipeline plugin in Jenkins. So I will show you the plugins which you can install. So this particular plugin is I mean to say this particular plugin with Maven basically uses these parameters. So these parameters are very important, and using these parameters this with Maven plugin will execute. And with credentials is also also a plugin, and that accepts this username, password and credentials. I mean basically just to use credentials I am using this. And then shell command like Maven clean and verify, and that's all. So now the next step is deploy. Okay, so under the next stage I have mentioned deploy, and now here I have mentioned when. So this is a condition you can put it. So in that I am just using this expression where I am just getting the parameter which you have to select while executing the job, and in that I'm just basically checking with this particular parameter name or ID, and I'm checking what is the value. So the value, if the value is release, or sorry, if the value is snapshot, then execute this script. In that script again I'm using credentials plugin and the Maven plugin, and I'm again executing the Maven command. And similarly I am also using this expression or the conditions. I am again executing this release command. As you can see, Maven release command I am using. So this is the Jenkins file which I have already uh, pushed into the GitHub. Okay, so let me push it back again because I did some changes, and let's see. Okay, and let me just push it back. Okay, so now this is done. Now the second thing is that I will show you here the pom.xml file. So here in this pom.xml file, uh, I am just going to change the version. So let me put it 4. So as you can see, I am just mentioning the version as 4.0.0 hyphen snapshot. Okay, so I am always going to write snapshot here. The version is not going to I mean obviously the version will change, but snapshot will be always there. But this pipeline will basically deploy the release with only 4.0.0, not with snapshot. When it will be for snapshot, when it will be executed for the snapshot, it will deploy the the artifacts in the Nexus repository server as 4.0.0 hyphen snapshot. But when I'll be executing for the release, that time it will deploy the artifacts to the Nexus repository server as 4.0.0.0. So the same thing which we have already done in the previous video, where I have used Maven Job. Okay, in that also I already had an option called Maven release. Okay, but here in this I don't have that option, because here I am just using a declarative pipeline. So in that case, I have coded in such a way so that you can get that kind of option as we were getting in the Maven job. Okay, so this is the pom.xml file. You can see the dependencies are here, and here this distribution management is also configured. Okay, so I have already described in my previous video. uh, if you want to go and check my previous video, please follow the link which I have shared. And so basically I am just mentioning the repository and the snapshot repository, and this is the settings.xml file. So you can see here also I have mentioned my server, username and password, okay, and the meters as well. Okay, so let's push it to the repository with the new version, and let's push it new major version file. Okay, let me go and push it. So now the pom.xml file and the Jenkins file has been pushed to the GitHub. So this is my GitHub repository. In GitHub, as you can see, I have my Jenkins file. So this is the Jenkins file I have, and you can see the parameters are also here. So the Jenkins file is already pushed to the repository. Now the pom.xml file, if we check that, and you can see the version is now 4.0.0 hyphen snapshot, right? So this is the Jenkins pom.xml file, and here I have multiple other Jenkins file. You can go ahead and check other Jenkins file, okay, for various other implementations. And yeah, if you have any question, you can post it in the comments. Now I am also using Nexus repository. So let me just sign in and I'll show you. Okay, so now if I go here, you can see I have various repositories. In that I have specific two repositories, that is Keynote snapshot. In that till now 3.0.0 snapshot version has been already built and deployed in this repository. Okay, and also you can see I have a release repository. So here also till 3.0.0 package has been deployed. If you see here, there is a difference, like it doesn't have that hyphen snapshot, so automatically it will deploy it with 3.0.0 but without that snapshot. Okay, so what is the difference between snapshot and release? I have already described in my previous video, so you can go ahead and check that. Okay, Now coming to the Jenkins, I have my Jenkins already installed, and first thing is that I'm going to create a new item. So here I'm just mentioning Keynote App Declarative Pipeline, and that would be a pipeline. So I'm just using this pipeline. In my previous video I have used a Maven project, so I have selected that, but this time I'm just using pipeline. Let's go and click on OK, and let's put some description. This pipeline, or maybe this declarative pipeline builds Maven projects and deploy the snapshot and release artifacts into the Nexus repo server. Okay. Next, going to this build trigger. So obviously you can mention that, okay, whenever, I mean, you can basically poll your SCM, or even you can, disable that, but I'm just going to implement this polling part. So h by 2, then star star star. So this is a cron tab entry. So this means, like, every 2 minutes this will poll and will check in the GitHub if there is any new push has been committed or not. If not, then it won't. If it is, then it will execute the pipeline. Now coming to the pipeline, so I'm just mentioning pipeline script from SCM. Here obviously I'm using GitHub, so that will be a git, and let me go to GitHub and get the URL. So if I get the URL, let me push it here. But here I'm just using a public repository, so I'm not going to use any credentials. But if you are going to use any private repository or maybe an organizational repository, you just have to create your credentials using this option, and then you have to select that particular credential. Okay, and the branch is master because my code is also it's just there in the master branch. I don't have any other branch at this point of time, so let's make it master and the script path. So this is very important. So where is the Jenkins file, or maybe the where is the Jenkins script is there. I am using this Jenkins file.jdp, so I'm going to mention that here as well. So Jenkins file.jdp. Okay, so that makes our configuration for Jenkins Jenkins pipeline. So now let's apply it and save it. Okay, now before I go and execute or maybe build this application, I just want to show you how you can add the pipelines or the plugins. So if you go here, I have already installed this Maven integration plugin. Okay, so you can see pipeline Maven integration plugin is already installed. So this is a very important plugin which you have to get it installed, and then pipeline and build pipeline plugin is also important because with this only we can use other pipelines. Okay, so in the build pipeline, whatever the other plugins which we have already installed, we can use that, like as we have done here in the Jenkins file. We are using another plugin called with credentials, and then with Maven. Okay, with Maven is basically the plugin for this Maven integration plugin. So for these you have to have this particular plugin installed. So these are the specific plugins which is very important, and you have to install. Apart from that, pipeline utility steps is also important. You have to get it installed. Okay. Now, coming back to the manage Jenkins. Now here you can see this global tool configuration is there. So in this, you can configure your tools or the plugins which you have already installed here. So as you can see here, the JDK. So now in the JDK, I have my JDK installations. Okay, so Java 8, which is basically downloading the Java 8 version and installing it. And after that, I have also, you know, in configured my Maven 3. This is the Maven plugin. So you can, if you remember in the Jenkins file, I have used the tools as Java 8 and Maven 3, right? So Maven 3 is here and the Java 8 installation is Java 8. So the name I have to mention there in the tool. Now the Maven is already installed here. Okay, so let me show you. So okay, so this is my Jenkins server. Let me show you. So the Jenkins service is running. So let me log into the Jenkins user, and here I already have my bash profile created. So here you can see I have my Java home and the Maven already set. Now this is my Maven home, so I have already exported that. Okay, now that is the reason I have just mentioned that tool to use this as the Maven home. Okay, so now once you're done, you can simply apply it and save it. Okay, so for me it was anyway, it is done, so I'm not going to again apply it and save it. Now coming back to the pipeline, so our pipeline name was Keynote App Declarative Pipeline. So as you can see here, I have already pushed a new file, and if you remember, every 2 minutes it will poll and check for new update or new push which already happened to the GitHub. Now as you can see here, it has already built it with the default parameter. So the default parameter is the first parameter, and in our Jenkins file the first parameter is snapshot. So it has already created a snapshot. If you see here, let's go to the console output and let's see, and let's come down, and as you can see, this is the snapshot pipeline which has been executed, and this was a success. And if you see here it is mentioned that stage release skipped due to when conditional, because it has already selected a snapshot automatically while polling for the GitHub changes, and it has skipped this release because I have an expression where it is mentioned that if only if the params build type equals to release. Since the params build type by default it was snapshot, it has skipped this particular stage. Okay, so coming back to this, so whenever any developer pushes his code into the GitHub, or maybe change the version, automatically it will deploy the snapshot. Now if we go back to our artifact repository, you can see this Keynote app snapshot has now this 4.0.0 hyphen snapshot. So the artifact has been already deployed. Okay, even if you want to just simply execute it, you can execute again for snapshot, but for the release again you have to execute for only once. So snapshot version can be overridden. So every time you do some changes in your code, in the source code, and you just simply change the version, and even if you do not change the version, the snapshot version will be same. You can simply rewrite that. Okay, so if I just build it again using the same build type option, so that this is how the parameter comes. So if I'm just selecting the build type as snapshot again, and if I just click on build, you can see it has started building again, and it will basically start the build, and you will see it will build it, it will deploy the artifact, but it won't change the version. So you can see this has again build that snapshot artifact. Let's go back to Nexus and see. Okay, let's go browse and snapshot. You can see till 4.0.0 snapshot artifacts are available, but here now you have two artifacts, right? So this is the second artifact. Okay, now let's see. Once this is done, now let's assume now the code is production ready. Now you want to deploy, or you want to release your application artifact into the release Nexus repository. So to do that, again click on build with parameters, select release, and simply execute on build. As you can see, the build has started. Let's see the console output, and as you can see, the release pipeline has started. Okay, so this is finished, and the release pipeline has been successfully built, and it has now deployed to the Nexus repository. So let's go and check the release repository. As you can see here, 4.0.0 release version has been deployed now. So now the release pipeline has been executed, the release artifact has been deployed into the Nexus repository. But now if you again want to build that, or maybe if you want to go with release again, now you'll see this will fail. Okay, so as you can see, this has failed because the tag 4.0.0 already exists. So that means for release you cannot, push it, or a new version you cannot push again. So to go and create a new version, and then only you will be able to execute the release pipeline. So this is how you create the pipeline, or maybe a declarative pipeline in Jenkins. The source code link is mentioned in the description, so please go ahead and take a look. And if you need any help, please visit my website www.lawtolearn.org. You can ask any question. You will find other blogs or the installation steps, or maybe the same video blogs you will find there. And this is my GitHub account. If you find any issue, or maybe if you want any help, you can post your comments here as well. So thank you for watching my video. Please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you.